Tale of Zola and the Broken Bridge. In the heart of the savannah, surrounded by rolling hills and winding rivers, there lay a small but vibrant village named Numbel. The people of Numbel were a hardworking community. The land was fertile, and the river Lumo, which flowed through the heart of the village, gave them everything they needed: water for drinking, fertile soil for planting, and plenty of fish. A large wooden bridge, built by the ancestors long ago, connected Numbel to the fields across the river. This bridge was vital to the survival of the village. It allowed the villagers to transport their harvests, reach their cattle, and gather resources from both sides of the river. The bridge was as much a part of the village as the people themselves, woven into the fabric of their daily lives. Among the villagers was a young girl named Zola, who was known for her quick wit and clever hands. Zola's mind was always thinking, always searching for ways to improve the world around her. While many children played games and ran through the fields, Zola could often be found helping the elders fix tools, patch up huts, or work on any problem that required a solution. Zola's father, a skilled carpenter, had taught her the art of using wood and stone, and she had inherited his love for fixing things. But it was more than just a skill. Zola had a deep respect for the land and its needs, and she believed that everything in nature had a purpose, even the problems that seemed too great to solve. One fateful evening, as dark clouds gathered in the distance, the village of Numbel was struck by a violent storm. The rains came hard and fast, drenching the land and swelling the river Lumo with frightening speed. The villagers huddled in their homes, praying that the storm would pass quickly. As the night wore on, the wind howled and the rain pounded the earth. By morning, the storm had subsided, but the villagers awoke to a devastating sight. The great wooden bridge that had connected them to the farmlands was destroyed. The river had risen higher than it ever had before, tearing away the planks and supports that held the bridge together. The villagers gathered at the edge of the river, staring at the wreckage in disbelief. Without the bridge, their way to the farmlands was cut off. They could not bring back the harvest, and their cattle remained on the other side of the river, unable to be tended to. The village was paralyzed. Elder Akina, the wisest woman in Numbel, gathered the villagers in the town square to discuss the next steps. She called for calm, knowing that panic would solve nothing. "We must work together to find a way to rebuild," she said, her voice steady. The bridge was not only a passage over the river but a symbol of our unity. Without it, we will surely falter. The villagers nodded in agreement, but there was one problem that none of them could see a solution for. How could they rebuild the bridge? It had taken their ancestors months to construct, and now the river was wider and more powerful than before. The storm had changed the landscape. Among the villagers stood Zola, her brow furrowed with thought. She had been listening quietly, and her mind was already piecing together possibilities. After a moment, she stepped forward, her heart racing. "Elder Akina, I can rebuild the bridge," she said, her voice carrying through the crowd. The villagers looked at her in shock. "Zola, you are but a child," said one elder. "How can you possibly fix the bridge? It is a task for the strongest and most experienced builders." Zola didn't falter. "I may be young, but I have spent my life learning the ways of the land. My father taught me the art of carpentry, and my hands are strong. If you trust me, I believe we can rebuild the bridge together." The crowd fell silent. Elder Akina looked at Zola with a thoughtful expression. "You have always shown wisdom beyond your years, Zola. If you are certain, we will help you in whatever way we can." With the village's trust behind her, Zola set to work. She spent the first day walking along the river, carefully studying the damage and thinking through her options. The river was wider, its current stronger, and the support beams had been swept away. But Zola was not deterred. Her mind was already forming a plan. On the second day, Zola called the villagers together. She explained her plan step by step. "The first thing we need is strong wood. Not the kind that is easily broken, but the kind that will endure the strength of the river. We will gather the tallest trees in the forest, the ones with the thickest trunks. These will form the base of the new bridge. We will also need vines," she continued, "for rope. We will braid them tightly so that they do not snap in the wind, and we will use them to secure the wood to the riverbank." The villagers were hesitant, but Zola's confidence was contagious. Soon, they began collecting the necessary materials, wood, vines, and stones for support. Everyone worked together, young and old, each person contributing to the project. As the work began, the first challenge quickly became apparent. The villagers had underestimated the strength of the river. The current was powerful, and the water was still high from the storm. When they attempted to place the first beams of wood across the river, they were swept away. Zola watched with concern but did not panic. "We need a new approach," she said calmly. She asked the villagers to stop and think. After a moment of silence, one of the older men spoke up. "If the water is too strong for the wood, perhaps we can build a foundation in the middle of the river, a stronghold that will support the bridge." Zola smiled. "That's the answer." By morning, they had built 2 strong pillars in the middle of the river. The beams of the bridge could now rest on these supports. The villagers worked tirelessly, weaving ropes from baobab bark. Zola, ever focused, directed the workers, making sure every detail was perfect. "It's ready," Zola said, her voice filled with pride. The villagers, weary but triumphant, crossed the new bridge, singing songs of joy and celebration. The bridge had survived the storm, and the farmlands were now accessible once again. The villagers gathered around the bridge, cheering and clapping for Zola's success.